So does Iran have the capability to follow through on threats of a regional conflict? We know they like to push a lot of propaganda. What do these threats mean to you when you hear them?
Look, bluster is pretty cheap, and in general, in such situations in history, I wouldn't necessarily take at face value what people say in public. What matters more is what is done in private or behind closed doors, and to your point, what their capabilities are. So yeah, Iran still has ballistic missiles that they can fire at Israel or perhaps at the UAE or Saudi Arabia. I'm not sure that it would be particularly wise for them to do this. Back in 1991, when Saddam Hussein wanted to break up a U.S.-led coalition that included Arab countries, it had some logic that he should throw scuds at Israel, and back then Israel showed restraint, and that did not break up the coalition. But today the context is very, very different. I don't think support for the U.S. from UAE or Saudi Arabia or even Qatar would necessarily be undermined if Israel gets dragged in. They're no longer scared of being on the same side as Israel. And if Israel is attacked, even though they are in no way responsible for what's happening in Iran, I think Israel would be within its rights to strike back. And the Iranians may not necessarily want that because, remember, Israel has an air force of 600 planes, about 250 attack fighters. That's more than the U.S. has been able to bring to the region so far. And that air force has proven an ability to do great damage to Iran. During the 12-day war in June, they controlled the skies over the entire country and I mean, took out much of their military and science leadership. I'm not so sure they want to see that happen again.
And look, as we talk about this bloody crackdown that's happening there, and the numbers are just astonishing, everybody's jaws kind of on the floor with this one. But President Trump in January, he said help is on the way, kind of emboldening them. But let's take a listen to what Trump has just said last night to reporters about Iran on Air Force One.
If you could make a negotiated deal that would be satisfactory with no nuclear weapons, they should do that, but I don't know that they will, but they are talking to us, seriously talking to us.
All right, so he's calling for a deal with no nuclear weapons. If a deal isn't made, would that be a red line? I mean, could that trigger military action? The deadly protests led to a lot of threats on both sides, but military conflict has been avoided so far. How does Iran's nuclear threat compare to human rights violations in the protests?
I got to be honest with you, I wouldn't take what Trump says at face value either. And there's a lot of confusion in Trump's position because when he told protesters help is on the way, he was talking about basically preserving the lives of Iranians and human rights. And essentially it sounded like he wanted to bring down the regime if they should massacre their own people, which they did. That has nothing to do with the nuclear issue, where in fact Iran is not threatening a nuclear bomb. They deny ever having had any program to build a nuclear bomb. I don't believe those denials. But Trump himself said in June that the nuclear threat had been totally obliterated. Indeed, in June, when people pressed him, and I was one of the people writing and talking about this, saying the regime is on its back foot and the U.S. can dictate surrender terms where Iran promises to never again enrich at an above civilian level, to no longer build and deploy ballistic missiles, and to stop funding and arming and training militias all over the region that mess with Arab countries from Iraq to Syria to Lebanon to Yemen and to the Palestinian areas as well. They could have imposed that then, and Trump said, I don't even need a deal. All of a sudden, he's forgotten about the massacre, but he does want a deal. I suspect that the Iranians might be willing to throw him a bone. I kind of believe they are talking seriously, because I don't think the Iranians assess that they're going to come out very well. They can't outgun the U.S., and if they're serious about attacking Israel as well, they most definitely cannot outgun the U.S. plus Israel. So they may want to throw him a bone. And you know what? One thing, Trump seems not determined to do regime change, whereas Israel is going to be quite focused on that.
All right. Yeah, and Iran isn't forgetting about the nuclear facilities getting hit by the bunker buster bombs over the summer either.
Sure.